Hello, colored federal man lawyers and colored federal man judges. You've been to the store shelves and you see all these bad products disappear from the market. I hope you know all these bad products that were spoiled products came from Ukraine to America. So are you really trying to say that me starting the war brought some allegation of any bad disordinary conduct to America? I know, I've been telling you, bitch, I started that war in Ukraine. But let's hear this message. And at the end of this topic, I block out Ukraine to do business deals against USA. Against USA? That's what they always been. So now let's listen.
Coming to the White House today, you have, of course, President Zelensky, who's the president of Ukraine, but you also have the president of the European Commission, the NATO Secretary General, as well as the leaders of Germany, France, Italy, and Finland. And what you're also going to see here is this schedule. You have White House arrivals, President Trump greeting President Zelensky. We'll have to watch out really closely of how that greeting goes. We know that the last time Zelensky was in the White House, he was essentially kicked out. Then you have a bilateral meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky. Then there's going to be a greeting of European leaders by President Trump, a group photo, and then there's going to be that larger multilateral meeting at 3 p.m. at the White House where President Trump is going to be sitting down with President Zelensky and all these European leaders. And what it's really going to be key here is what exactly what kind of agreements even come out of these conversations? Is it going to be that Ukraine has to be at the table the next time President Trump meets with President Putin? The also big questions are what security guarantees, if any, can Ukraine get out of this? We heard from Steve Witkoff over the weekend, who is a special assistant to President Trump, saying that Ukraine might have NATO-like security guarantees. What that actually means is going to be key here, because does that mean boots on the ground? Does that mean aerial support? A lot of questions, and hopefully a lot of at least some answers this afternoon.
Yeah, hopefully, and I think we'll have to wait to hear those details. But one of the things that we'll see immediately are the visuals, which are of central importance to this administration, to this president. They were important to set the tone in Alaska, rolling out the red carpet for Russian President Putin. So will Zelensky be getting a red carpet welcome, figuratively or literally? I mean, you can sometimes see the preps there at the White House, Yamiche. Are there any to that effect?
At AAI, we get it. Our programs put the tools of the trade in your hands with programs built for real life. Learn by doing. Work with.
Are there any to that effect?
So you mean to tell me that Trump is against American citizens here in USA? Yes. Ukraine has always been against America's citizens, thinking that you're going to attack them next. So they thought of schemes to kill your population as a matter of self-defense. Now let's watch more.
What's going to be really interesting to see that. I mean, I don't know if they're going to see a literal red carpet in front of the White House. What we do think we're going to see is President Trump warmly welcoming President Zelensky back to the White House. That's key because, remember, it was in February where President Trump and President Zelensky, along with the Vice President and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, had this.
So just let the war stay in tune without any help from USA or soldiers. Okay, my bitch, you stand by USA soil. For citizens, think about your babies. You see in the stores that baby powder is missing? That's because Ukraine was poisoning your children. Now let's watch more.
Really raucous meeting where President Zelensky and President Trump and the Vice President were arguing essentially about whether or not President Zelensky was grateful enough for all of the help the United States had given Ukraine. So it really ended up blowing up, and you actually saw President Zelensky be shown the door unceremoniously. So the fact that he's even coming back to the White House and that President Trump is welcoming him, that's a sort of red carpet in and of itself, given the fact that the way that the last meeting ended, I could not, and many could not have envisioned another meeting happening, along with, of course, all these European leaders, Allie.
Yeah, you're right. That hangs over this so much. And Matt, it sort of begs the question, if that's why European leaders wanted to be at this table, or if they felt they had to come do some damage control after Friday. I mean, talk a little bit about the calculus on the part of all of these top European leaders who flooded to Washington really at a moment's notice.
Well, that's all correct. So we don't know, specifically the mechanics of how this came together. It's some mix of the Europeans pushing to come themselves, Zelensky insisting they be there. There was also an official White House invitation thrown in the mix. Either way, this is all a clear signal that the Western alliance is seriously alarmed by what did or didn't happen in Alaska on Friday, and also what Trump might be planning to present to Zelensky in Washington today. So Zelensky is showing up with a serious entourage. As you said, they're all coming on very short notice. The UK Prime Minister, heads of NATO, European Union. Two that I really want to kind of signal, pick out of the bunch here is the French President Macron and Finland's President Stubb, who I would point out has a reputation as kind of a Putin whisperer, but he's also someone who has a very unique perspective on dealing with the Russians. He's also become Trump's favorite European leader. They golf together and reportedly have a close relationship.
I pass a law bill. All products from Ukraine will never be dismissed as a business conversation goes. I shut down the business ceremony towards America versus on Ukraine. Walk away from your enemies to stand uniformly to be a protective source of hope and business, okay? Because then this is a lawsuit. I'm saying you $900,000 is what you owe American citizens because it was help from all these businesses here in the USA doing shady business deals towards saying that, oh yeah, I have so much student loan debt. Yes, you studied to be a doctor. Being a doctor is supposed to stand by helping your clients. Okay? Like cancer research on children. Hope you know Ukraine is the country that started cancer research towards your child and citizens. So America was shading the population. Well, bitch, I don't agree with that topic. But you should agree that Ukraine don't like you and understand that argument. Drink your ass some tea, bitch. Let's listen more.
So that could be critical today in attempting to bring President Trump back to the European side. But it is also worth saying in that context that I think Macron's presence here is significant, since he's arguably the Western leader who has the most experience in being lied to by President Putin. You may recall that Macron tried very, very hard in the lead up to the invasion in 2022 to essentially talk Putin out of it. He went to Moscow, he spent hours on the phone with Putin. So, all that said, today's meeting might actually end up being more consequential than the one on Friday. We'll see how they do.
It's actually interesting to hear the way that you lay out which world leaders have sway with who, because ultimately being in that room and the question of who has sway with Trump could be of paramount importance. David Ignatius, according to your reporting, who might that world leader be, and what might the relationships in the room look like from the point of view of not just who knows the Russians and the way they operate, but who knows Trump and the way that he operates?
What if I told you that the moment your book is published, there could be a
So-colored federal man lawyers, you mean you want a Snowden effect towards the other citizens besides Donald Trump? My bitch, remember this conversation. 4,300 youths were raped by him. And you stand before him? My bitch, you do know I know how to break your law bill. You're doing treason report of criminality towards other citizens besides yourself in a desirement of outreach. So, thank you. I'm allow other citizens to hear this remorse message. Thank you.